So it's all good things, of course. But yeah, winter brings its own. It's cold, of course, but it's crisp weather.
Mm-hmm.
It's, you have the fireplace for warmth. And it's honestly, as long as you're not anti-cold, it's a beautiful season for you to just rest, restore, and take everything in and just be grounded. So I'm in a grounding space right now, and I feel like all of my VCIs are in that same space. And I feel like they may have a blizzard coming on, you know, like in February or March. But right now, everyone is in a good space.
Yes, I love it.
Well, let me stick with the winter theme because I'm feeling a lot of winter as well. And it too is my favorite season. And I'm definitely in a recovery phase. I had a bit of a traumatic health incident in November and early winter. And so I've really been trying to take advantage of the time of, I guess I want to say part-time hibernation. So I'm not working as hard as I normally do just because I got limitations there. But it's been restorative in a lot of ways, both emotionally and sort of physically, you know, through that process there. I don't know, I really look forward to the blizzard, to the craziness sometimes of things, because blizzards are also here in Colorado, like they're temporary. Like we'll have a foot of snow one day, as some of you may know, and then it'll be 70 degrees the next. And so it's not like I'm in Minnesota where it's just like, you know, harsh weather all the time. So I'm kind of looking forward to kind of that next snowstorm kind of come through to kind of jazz things up a little bit.
Yeah. Nice.
I'll add on to that by saying I'm in a Colorado winter.
For
that very reason that I think, as Dana knows, this has probably been one of the most intense seasons of my life, for a plethora of reasons, and the fact that trauma and love and work and everything else bring simultaneous joy and sorrow is much like a Colorado winter day. So I'll use that metaphor to share that it's just a season of a lot of change and a lot of growth and love and tough stuff too.
Love it.
I'm going to be boring and go with winter also. Just because I can't imagine another season right now. I do not love winter, but I do like spending it indoors. So I'm taking a personal day today, and yesterday was the holiday, so I have been cooped up here at home for days, and I don't mind it. I'm trying to get work done. It's not really happening so well, so I'm back to the grind tomorrow. And I'm just hanging out with the dogs and taking it easy, and it'll be spring soon. And at least it's staying lighter longer. I'm all for that light.
Yes. Amen. I don't know if this is a technical season, but I grew up in South Florida, and so we always had hurricane season. And following hurricane season or following a hurricane when everything is like all of a sudden it went from straight chaos to calm is sort of where I am right now. Like I am just in this calm space where I don't have a million things to do. Like I have no, really in-service workshops on the horizon that are making me nervous in terms of planning. I finally gathered all of the mid-year data and dispersed it to the people that needed to see it. And all of a sudden I'm like sitting here thinking, oh my gosh, I have a minute to like breathe and go back to those creative projects that I'm excited about diving more into. And so I'm feeling really excited about this moment. Now it will not last. I know it will be very short-lived, but I will try to embrace it while I can and stay focused, because then I also have a habit when I'm not like, having all of these deadlines of just kind of like floating through my day and then not maybe getting as much done as I had hoped to get done. So that's where I am, and that is my goal for right now.
Nice.
Yeah. Speaking of goals, I just wanted to remind you to take a moment to go back to your team's interest inventories, refresh your memory with what their original goals were for the year. Probably after spending this much time with you all, their goals have changed in some way. And so this might be a good time to have just a check-in and reflect on what we've done so far. and looking ahead to the next semester. Is our goal still appropriate? Has it changed? And if so, how do we change our action steps to help meet that new goal, that new defined goal? So making sure that they're aware of what they set for themselves and that they're moving toward that, I think is really helpful. Okay. And then I also wanted to talk a little bit about coaching tools. Jim is going to talk about the experience map in a second, which is a tool of his that we've been using a lot with our purpose learning work in schools because it's so great and it's all encompassing. It reminds me a little bit, Susan, of the logic model and the way that you lay out the experience. Whereas the logic model, I think, encompasses like the whole overarching concept. The experience map breaks it into small manageable chunks to help you make sure that you're getting there and you're like addressing the whole learner on the way. So I think it's a great partnership. And then I wanted to check in with you all and see if you've used a new tool this fall that you really liked, or if you had anything that you wanted to share with the team for next semester to try out with their own teams. Does that sound good? Okay, Jim, do you want to start with the experience map?
Yeah.
So, you should all be able to link or click on the link in the agenda, and Jim also just dropped it.
Yeah. No.
I was unable to. It said I needed permission to.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Did you try the new link that I just sent?
No.
Yeah, give that a shot. I think maybe that'll hopefully, but maybe you might still have a problem.
Still need permissions.
Okay. Just send me a little quick, and then I'll.
I got you.
Is anyone going to share it, or do we need to look at it?
I think we have to.
Yeah, it's because depending on how big you're projecting your screen is. Yeah.
I can share it too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. If you're on desktop, that would.
Okay.
Try to refresh it and see if that works for you now.
That worked for me.
It did?
Great. Okay. So actually, if everybody could go to slide 2 first, and I'll share my screen too. Just
whatever's easiest for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Perfect.
All right. Can everybody sort of see that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So this kind of ties into my background a little bit, just kind of a nice introduction as well, where, as long as I was in the classroom, I was really trying to always kind of connect and integrate design into my classroom experience that I was sort of trying to create. And I was really inspired and influenced, by a lot of industry designers who were non-educators. And one of the tools that I came across a few years ago was this idea of sort of the experience map. And so before I kind of connect it to kind of how we use it with sort of the purpose work here, what I want folks to do is just to take just a couple of minutes to glance through this experience map. This is an experience map by a company called Adaptive Path, and they did it for people who are getting ready to do the Eurail pass and try to go on a Eurail sort of vacation here. So let's just take a couple of minutes kind of looking and glancing at this experience map there. And what I'd love for you to do is just highlight those things that kind of stand out to you when you look at this, and then also start thinking about I can see the connection between this and sort of what we do in education. All right, is that clear to everybody?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. All right, let's take a couple minutes. Let's go 1 more minute. Okay. All right. So if folks wouldn't mind, just like in the chat, just jot down a couple things that, oops, sorry, that once again, that sort of stood out to you for the map. Okay. Try to stop sharing here.
Whoops, come back here, you.
I'm definitely seeing the trend of overwhelming here. Absolutely. Yep. Good. All right. Nice. Okay. So the flow and the verbiage being sort of using there, and the journey mimicking the educational experience. Yeah, you guys are making all like the same, initial kind of connections, sort of that I did as well. And so, like, I saw this as an opportunity, to advance kind of what I did as a teacher. And obviously the tool, the experience method we're all trained to use is the lesson plan. And so this is a lesson plan that, like, I like to sort of describe as a lesson plan filled with empathy. All right. And so, when I say that word empathy, like, what are the examples of empathy that you sort of saw there in the experience map? You can say these out loud. We'll just popcorn these. Yeah.
Well, it was a lot about user comfort, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there were lots of mini steps along the way of, like, this person might be uncomfortable taking this much on, so let's break it down into these experiences, and here's how you can always find support throughout the whole thing.
Awesome. Yeah. All right. Other examples of where empathy kind of shows experience map.
It makes me think of coaching my mother-in-law through her experience with air travel
Right.
when she's never done air travel before and she was doing it alone. And so I would have loved this chart for her because she had all of these what ifs. And for me as a seasoned traveler, it was very frustrating because so many things are intuitive, but for the newbie, I can see it as being extremely stressful and having all those what if scenarios addressed on paper.
Good. Okay. Yeah. Right. Susan, about you, anything that sort of, that screams sort of empathy on the experience map to you?
Yeah, I just wrote in the chat, but one attribute of empathy is staying out of judgment. And so the fact that it's very strategically separated into categories and there are graphics allows for the actual experience to happen, as opposed to it's an experience that is judged or tainted by past experiences, perhaps.
Awesome. Yeah, no, absolutely there. No, that's all terrific stuff there. So if we kind of go back to the first page here now, like, it's kind of like a hybrid. And I'll share this again here just so people can sort of see there. This page here. All right. Everybody see that now? Mm-hmm. Great. So, like, what I tried to do is I tried to create a hybrid between sort of the overwhelming sort of experience map of adaptive path to something that's more relevant to both the students and the teachers that I work with now. And so, when you look at sort of this map here, like, I have sort of my guiding principle, and that's right under the word sort of experience map here, is like, we seek to co-design physical and intellectual experiences that become a complete universe in which all who enter are not observers, but key characters, and sometimes the heroes of their own learning stories. So I tried to generate, a learning focus, sort of guiding principle. Then once again, like, that's my North Star. Like, I don't reach it sort of every single time, but like, that's what I'm shooting for. Like, I want people to own their learning. I want them to feel like they're really actively sort of engaged in it. And so everything that I design in a lesson or professional learning experience, it has to kind of align somewhere with that. And then I borrowed the stages, components. So, with experience design, they actually think about what can you actually do for people who are going to be engaging with you in this learning actually before they even show up. So there's a pre-experience and there's a post-experience that kind of goes along with it as well. And I use that a lot for coaching. Like, how can I set up the coaching session that I'm going to sort of have, before we even sort of get together for that session? And then obviously I've got, what are people sort of doing? But the thing that really drives, this experience map for me is the two sections, I'm thinking and feeling. Like, that just took my level of awareness of the people that I'm working with to a different level. So what are people actually going to be thinking when they're going through this? And then how are people actually going to be feeling when they're doing these things up above? So for me, like, that was the empathy piece there, was like really intentionally saying, I'm going to be conscious of how I think people might be thinking and how they might be sort of feeling in that process. And then just the last two parts I'm going to sort of share down here. One is the opportunities. Like, this is where I put all my learning objectives, my learning standards, and the 21st century skills or their leadership skills. It's just, there's a space for me too to be very intentional about those learning goals that I have. And then lastly, at the bottom here are sort of my additional design principles that I use: purpose, equity, impact, community, creativity, quality, fun, and balance. I don't hit all those things at every part of every stage of the experience map. Once again, like, they're just a reminder to me of what I want to sort of do in that process. Yeah. So, that's sort of the experience map there. And then the last thing I'll just sort of say about this is, it's a lot less rigid than the lesson plans that, were given to me as a sort of a teacher. Like, it wasn't so rigid that, it said, like, learning standards. Like, it's learning opportunities. So it gives me a lot of flexibility, to sort of do that, through that process. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's sort of the experience map there. Kind of any thoughts, reflections, or questions that kind of folks have?
Well, I think the part, and just to kind of piggyback off that for a minute, the part that really stood out to me when we first started looking at that is that when you're working with a teacher, primarily planning a lesson or a unit, you really what they are concerned with is just that one row of think. What do the kids need to know? And really, when you're looking at an learning experience, you can see this very clearly lays out that that's such a small part of the whole learning process, and probably the reason that a lot of learning is not retained in students, because we forget the do and the feel and the additional opportunities. And so when we're just kind of drilling in content, we're missing a huge part of development of the self as a critical thinker, as a collaborator, as a learner, as somebody that can deeply comprehend what they care about. And so what I really like about this experience map is that I like this, and I like the minutes, because I can, the stages in the top, if I write lecture, discussion, lecture, in terms of like what's happening, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 10 minutes, it could be 45 minutes and my kids are still sitting and they've never moved and they haven't gotten up and they haven't talked to anybody. And I didn't really know that before I laid it out on this experience map to see what the experience was for them instead of what the experience is for me as a teacher planning this out for them. So it really helped me sort of flip this idea of planning on its head to really think, we always talk about student-centered, but to really think about the learner experience that's happening in this moment. So I really appreciate this breakdown so much for teachers, for anybody, for anything. If you're doing an in-service workshop, right? If you're running a faculty meeting, really for anybody that's in a position of teaching.
So my question for you, Jim, is do you use this experience map in place of a lesson plan? Like, is this the planning of the lesson with the experience map, or is it to complement each other?
I mean, I offer it as a tool, like we use it as an activity. So sometimes I'll just ask them to, take their existing sort of lesson plan and sort of just plot it onto experience map. And, one thing like my approach to sort of change is really organic. Like, I don't try to force anything on anybody. So this could be simply just an activity for them to sort of say, hey, just for the time we have together, like, let's just do this differently, just like once. Mm-hmm. And then let's compare kind of what you have. And then you might sort of say, oh, like I actually want to get a hybrid from what I use as lesson plan and this experience map, you know, but it's a starting point for an activity for them to sort of think and look differently at the lesson planning. Yeah. Yep. Nice. All right. Well, you know to find me if you have any more questions about the experience map.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. On that note, I'm going to hop off.
Perfect timing.
But it's so nice to meet everybody, and I look forward to kind of the next time we all get together there. And I'm sorry I couldn't stay on to learn more about all the great work you guys are doing. But like I said, look forward to it next time.
Yeah, great. Thank
you
you
for sharing.
Okay. All right. I'll see you
Nice
guys later.
meeting you.
Okay. See ya.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Awesome.
And then there was 4.
Pardon?
I said, and then there was 4.
And then there was 4. So how come I can't see my, hold on. Oh, there it is. Okay, great. So any other thoughts on how you might use that with your teams this semester? Or could you use it?
I think I tend to see everything kind of in layers. You all probably know by now. But anyway, it's kind of a meta exercise that I think we can use it to plan for our sessions with our teachers. You know, I think it can be used in that sense. And I think teachers could even use it, give it to their students if their students are designing their own projects. So it can be in so many layers. And of course, I'm thinking, well, I could use it with entrepreneurs. I could use it with, you know, business professionals. I mean, it's another way to have a simplified version of perhaps a more complex plan that doesn't need to be a part of the focus of the session.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking while he was going over it. I was thinking the same thing, Susan, like, oh, how can I use this in my, you know, my PBLs, or how can I use this with other clients? This is sort of like what they do with the instructing when you go, I call it global instructing, but when you do the hand, heart, and head ideology, it's like the similar thing with doing, thinking, and feeling.
Yes.
So I thought about that. So I think we use it without having like to pinpoint an exact, like call it experience map. I think is like ingrained in our way of being and the way of doing. I know I cannot like specifically use this as like a topic because I have, you know, I have a newbie who's already overwhelmed, and then I have someone else who's doing something completely different. But I can see how this intertwines with our lessons or our time together, and just sharing like how to teach kids how to think or feel, or not how to, but make them aware of the fact that they are thinkers, they are feelers, they are doers, and going in that route. So I can use it, but I'll use it implicitly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. What about other tools that you've been using this semester that you found to be useful, that worked with your teams, that you think other people should maybe consider using, either as a coaching tool that the team didn't really know you were doing it, but you were giving it a try, or as a planning tool that you worked on with? And it's okay if you don't have anything.
You know, one thing I've been using that doesn't have a title. maybe this.
Not yet.
This will be part of my book, but anyway. And again, this is something that I use for personally, professionally, with educators, with corporate clients. But that is when people are in a stage of kind of, let's say, flooded, when they're flooded with so much going on, which really tends to be the case for most people, and I think especially teachers. What we do is just a brain dump. We get everything into one place. And then I'm a big sticky note fan, but if you're doing this digitally, and then it's actually a design thinking practice. So it's when you're doing the brainstorm part of it. So you just get everything out, the most wild ideas, all the things you're working on. Then you categorize them, step 2, and then step 3 is to prioritize. So big picture, working small. And that's really helped I'm working with one person right now in Colorado, and she was just really trying to figure out how to decipher what her job was. And so I said, well, let's get everything out. Tell me everything that you do, and then let's organize it from there. So I guess starting big, it's backward design in a way, but starting big and then working it down to a prioritized list. And it seems to really help everybody.
Yeah, that's great.
So I guess it's Getting Unstuck. That's what I'll title it.
Mm-hmm. Getting unstuck. I like it.
I like it. Maybe you need to like invent a way to have like, so in the digital space, we could have stickies that you can then move around and
There
categorize.
is.
Yes.
There's an app called Post-it. Which app are you talking about, Susan?
It's not called Post-it, but I can't remember what it's called. But I tried it, and I need the for personally. I need an aesthetic.
I know. I've got them too all over the
Got
place
them there.
all the time. It's actually because then I can be like, "Oh, done, Chuck." But I do have Post-it on my computer, and I do like it.
I love
But not
it.
as much as I like to write it down. Yeah.
Is it an app or is it a website?
It's an app.
Do you use a Mac?
I do, yes.
Yeah, it's it's called Stickies.
Stickies.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I was just wondering, like,
Oh,
way
the sticky.
that it could be that groups that aren't together but are together virtually could do something.
Mm-hmm.
So there is something.
Yeah.
I used it in college. It's called. It used to be called Wall Wisher.
Mm-hmm.
Now it could be called Padlet. Padlet.
Padlet.
Padlet.
Yeah, but it used to be
Yeah.
called Wall Wisher, and I
Yes.
used it in college to do all of that. But I do know once it's all there, I don't think there's a way for you to organize them once it's all there. That's the only thing. But there's an app called, I was going to screen share, but if you are one of those people who you see a lot of things that makes you anxious, just close your eyes. Well, I'm going to show you my screen really quickly so you can see what I mean about when I mention Post-it. I found it when I was looking for finding a way to organize my chapters for my book. But if you see the background and you see like all of those colors.
No, because we just see your logo.
Hold on.
I see it.
Oh, you
Yeah.
do?
Yeah, maybe your setting is
Hold on.
like
Maybe let me go bigger.
Okay, so all of these little colors are all different posts that I had them all and I organized them into like parts of chapters, and then I can go back and like organize it even more. But that's just an app that I found. That's called.
What was it called?
Post-it.
Post-it.
They're so original. But
Padlet is the one where it's like Google Docs, but everybody gets assigned a color, right?
I
is
don't
that not
know
the
if
one?
Everyone gets assigned a color, but I use it a lot in workshops, and I use it with my students. And people can put any sort of, it could be words, it could be a website, it could be a picture, it could be a video. It's really versatile.
Great. Cool. I'll check it out. There was one I used to use because it was like Google Docs, but everybody got a color, so you could actually see how much each student was contributing based on.
I like.
I know, I really liked it too because you couldn't go back and change it. Okay, great. Well, let me see. I was working with, I thought that this was an appropriate time to talk about some coaching stems, especially this time of year. I was working with a couple different teachers over the past couple weeks, and we're sort of in that space of the year where people are feeling a little bit like, I can't do this, I don't have enough time. There's sort of that negative, there's a negative space feeling over them. They're in the middle of the year, they're feeling already behind. And so when I hear those reflections from them, what I'm recognizing, hi Honor, is that there's definitely a deeper seated meaning in that, right? So for instance, I was working with a department head last week who is trying this really new progressive work with their 9th grade English team around identity. And so in this particular school, all of the teachers have to kind of teach in the same way, and they have different leads for each unit. And so the teacher presents it, and then everybody kind of does it. And this lesson that he put together on identity, or unity rather, was absolutely phenomenal. I was like, you have to present this at conferences because it's exactly what schools are looking for. But some of the older, more seasoned faculty were saying things to him like, I'm not sure that the kids are learning through this way. I don't know what, I don't know what skills I'm teaching in this way if I don't do this. And so what was making him feel kind of defensive was primarily them just describing the fact that they didn't know what they were doing and they were highly uncomfortable with that. And so kind of breaking down what you hear to what the feeling is, going back to that thinking, feeling, doing, like, I hear you say this, but really what's happening is you don't know what you're doing. You are a master of your content, but you don't feel like you're teaching content. So you're not sure what your role is in this situation. Or, for the woman that says, I don't know what I'm teaching, for her, we just talked about her need, to really write down what the learning objectives or skills are that she wants to make sure that her kids are getting during this lesson, and add space for that so that she's feeling a little bit more confident in that way. And so I was thinking it would be a good time to just kind of break down some of these. When I hear this, what does it actually mean? Like, how can we respond to that? First of all, Honor, I wanted to greet you. Are you there? Hi. Welcome.
Hello. Yes.
How you doing?
Everybody. Good.
Good to see you. Oh, hey, Alicia. I didn't see you on there either. Hey, girl.
Hey.
Nice to see you. Welcome, team.
Thanks. Sorry, I'm late.
We're all almost together now. That's so great. What an experience that you guys are having out there today at DU, Alicia.
Oh my
Very
gosh.
cool.
It's the beginning of our diversity summit. So that conversation was getting intense. I was like, I gotta go.
Well, I did record the beginning of it. So especially about the experience map, I'll share that with y'all when we're done here. But we're just kind of moving into the coaching STEM thing. So why don't we take just a couple minutes, and how about everybody just pick one? And then we can share out about that. My hope was that we would all do them and then we would share them and get some tools to say. But when I hear this curriculum is not developmentally appropriate, who wants to take that one in terms of what can you say as the coach?
I'll take it.
Thank you. How about, but that's the way I've always done it?
Ooh, I'll take that one.
Okay. How about, these kids just can't do this?
I'll do that.
Okay. How about, nobody ever tells me when I'm doing anything right? Okay, we can skip that one. This is my favorite. Everything's going great.
That's the one I need to do.
You gotta love that, teacher. Okay, Honor, that's all you. And then how about, I don't have time to teach science or whatever? What?
Am I the only one left?
I think so.
Okay, I was trying to find them, so I have to look. I'm visual, so I'm like, where is it? Okay, I'll just do whichever one that was there. It's fine.
Okay, how about I don't have time to teach X, Y, and Z?
That's fine.
Okay, great. Okay, great.
I seem to be only able to view the document, not edit.
Oh, well, I am so sorry about that.
Oh, me too. I'm on view only.
Okay, let me see if I can change that real quick.
Request edit access.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, you sure can. Let's see. Okay, you should be good to go. Okay, this one.
Shayna, could
Yes,
you
ma'am.
put this link into the chat box, please?
You betcha.
Because I'm on 2 different emails.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
Oh, that one. Oh, I sent that to Honor on accident. Sorry. Just to Honor.
It's okay. Can you just end it to the Natasha Inspires one if you don't mind really quickly?
You want me to email it?
It doesn't matter, either or. I just I'm in a different email account on my iPad. Sorry. The last one.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Welcome. There you are.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm. Honor, I'm just reading yours. I love it. All right, Susan, do you want to go first because you have to leave?
Sure. So I wrote, oh, I can't see it now.
Oh, sorry. Which one are you?
Oh, no, it's okay. I'll just go to my screen. So I am, the kids just can't do this.
Oh, uh-huh.
What I wanted to say is, you're wrong.
I know.
But I didn't. Instead, I think question asking, especially questions that begin with how and what, elicit the most cognitive processing. Yeah. So how might we meet the students where they are, and what suggestions do you have so we might create a lesson or a project that the students can feel good about doing?
Yeah, I love it. That's great.
Thanks.
Anybody else have any other thoughts on that one? I like it. I think I might ask the teacher also, like, what skills do you think the kids would need to be able to do it? And then how might we create a learning space for them to move in that direction?
That's great.
Love it. Thank you, Susan. And I know you have to go.
We'll
thank you for today.
Won't see my
face. Okay.
Bye.
Thank you. All right, Nathan, you want to go next?
Sure. Mine was very similar to that. So mine was along the lines of the curriculum not being developmentally appropriate. So I would gently sort of start off by asking, what student behaviors have shown you that this is the case? Because I think sometimes some teachers will misidentify certain things and just sort of with their preconceived notions just take a behavior and attribute it to something, whereas that may not be the case. So that's just sort of gently leading them to kind of flesh out what's going on. And then I could ask, what aspects do you find to be the most challenging for them, especially if they're having a hard time picking out what those behaviors are, still trying to kind of get them out of that preconceived notion. And then go in for something helpful, like what can we do to scaffold the material in order to reach every student. And it could very well be the case that the curriculum is not developmentally appropriate, and we need to either, tier it up or tier it down. And that's sort of the whole art of teaching, is that you can, play around with whatever you've got to make it work for whatever scenario you're in.
Yeah. I like that. I had a lower school team last year that I heard that from them all the time when I tried to push them more with their PBL. It's not developmentally appropriate. The kids can't do that. That's too complicated. So I like these. I think they're very useful.
Right. And sometimes it could just even be like sort of pivoting on something. Like we have this thing at our school every year called Global Perspectives Day. And we take a topic that we look at from junior pre-K all the way through 12th grade, but at a developmentally appropriate way for each grade level. Mm-hmm. And we were doing 1 year on the themes of gender identity. And, I'm in a girls' school, so that's something we talk about all the time. And, we were talking about, gay people, and one teacher brought up, well, you can't talk about that in primary school because it's not developmentally appropriate. And, we just took it away from, it's not sex, it's love, and how do families love each other. And,
right.
That shut the person down. And I don't know if it fully worked, but there you go.
Yeah. I like that. Thank you. Alicia?
Well, I have had to deal with this quite a bit this year. Just not in so many words saying that's the way I've done it in the past, but just really challenging new ideas and really being resistant to changing some of the thought processes. So just kind of reconnecting them to how it all emerged. So how has that worked in the past? Tell me ways in which it worked, and then just grabbing some, ideas from that makes them feel that you're still using that, but it's just, formatted a different way. And then again, have you revisited how these ideas emerge? Like, where did it come from? Is it still the same group of students, or still the same world that we're living in that connects these ideas? And then do they still align with the students and the teachers? Because some of those methods and ways of doing are really old and antiquated, and sometimes don't match what the current agenda needs to be. So just kind of massaging that out of the group has been my process, versus, are you kidding me?
Yeah, right.
And or I just give that positive affirmation, but I'm not really good at being fake. So it's hard for me to say, oh my God, it's so great what you're doing. How can we use this to, make it work this semester? That's just not me. I'm going to be like,
and if that is not you, then you should not try that, because people will see right through it.
Exactly. It shows through, and they'll be like, why are you being like that?
Yeah. Yes. I feel that. That's great. I love that. Thank you.
But for those of you who are softies, I suggest that for you.
Yes. There are people. I have people in my life that are like that, and I love them so much.
I do too. It's just not me.
Yes. I think this one is me. No one ever tells me when I'm doing anything right. I feel like I've heard this from teachers that have been around the block a long time, right? And they've got all these new initiatives coming at them. Now we're doing PBL. Now we're doing purpose learning. Now we're doing design thinking. Now I have to map on this curriculum. And they're just like, nobody ever tells me when I'm doing anything right. It's always like I'm just doing everything wrong and blah, 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 blah. And so, like, much like Alicia, you were just saying, my angle is, sorry, that must feel very frustrating for you. I know that you're not feeling validated in your work right now. Let's talk about, or tell me some of the things that you feel like you're doing really well. And I think that's probably a good thing. Or maybe even touching back to, when did you feel like you were being validated and supported by your administration? And what were you doing at that time that might look a little different than what you're doing right now? Or something along those lines, where you're getting them to really dive into their history, into where they felt good about their work, and try to tap back into that feeling and sort of pull out how they were there before and how they got to where they are now.
Right. Okay.
But generally speaking, it's because they're not doing what their administration wants them to be doing, or at least that's been my experience. They're just overwhelmed, and they just want people to tell them that what they're doing is great because it's always worked. Back in years again. Honor? This one's so funny. Not funny. It's a hard thing to navigate, and much in that same way we were just talking about.
Yeah, I guess I just thought of it two ways of like, just don't question them in any way. Just say, okay, let's go from there. If everything's going great, then let's pick something else. So let's find something you want to add on, because if it's all going so well, you should be ready to do that. Or then I thought, well, maybe if I was if I had some pretty clear evidence that was not in any way accurate, I was trying to think, how could I diplomatically get them to reveal some of the places that were not going well? And I thought maybe I would ask them to talk about challenges, framing it as like, well, so what are the challenges that you've overcome? And maybe then they would realize like, oh, maybe I have challenges that I have not overcome. So I don't know. I also don't like to do sort of like reverse psychology or like feel like I'm manipulating people. But what else are you going to do because I mean, these are defensive statements, basically. Like they're trying to tell you like, go away, leave me alone. I don't want to play this game. And so you have to like turn it around a corner to be a real conversation somehow.
Yeah. I wonder if you could ask them to define what great means to them. You know what I mean? Like, everything's going great. Great. What does that mean? What does great mean to you? And if that, it's like, well, my kids are all, scoring great on our vocab tests. I don't have a lot of work outside of school right now. I've taught this curriculum for 17 years and I know exactly what I'm doing. And you know what I mean? That probably does feel pretty great.
Yeah.
But in terms of room for growth, there's probably a lot of it. Yeah, that one's a tough one. I had that one last year. That was all my VCI last year, was all day. And Natasha?
All right, I don't have time to teach science, so I just took whatever it was. It depends on the grade level, I think. If it's elementary, I would ask them, how do you define science? Because the science curriculum in elementary is completely different. It's not as always specific as it is in high school. So if this was like a chemistry professor, I wouldn't ask him that. Not professor, but chemistry high school teacher, I wouldn't ask him that question. But with elementary, I was like literally go through that, go right to how do you define science, and then we'll go to like, what parts of your unit could we include to integrate with your other subjects.
Nice.
Because there's always other parts, especially with science and social studies both, that the other parts of your subjects, whether it's math, literature, grammar, etc., that can be integrated with science. And then I will ask them more about why do they think so, and then in a perfect world, tell me more about your schedule. And that way I can find out if there are any gaps in their schedule, or if they're taking 2 hours to do reading, and if there's a way we can make that 2 hours into maybe 1 hour and 15 minutes and not 45 minutes of science. The other way, depending on the teacher and the personality, so I was thinking of different personalities. Some people need more of a softer answer, so I would say, no, I understand it completely. It's hard to find time for everything because things are overwhelming. So how about we look at one of your lessons or units and brainstorm together? Sometimes things are easier to do things together than separate. Science is everywhere and can be included with almost any subject. So it depends on the personality of the teacher, depends on how we answer that or respond.
Yeah, absolutely. Love it. Nice job. Hopefully these will be a little bit helpful as you come across these more and more as the year progresses. And then finally, final thoughts. Where are we in this work? How are we feeling about the work? How might we improve? Any final thoughts on the work that you're doing with your VCIs, with your participants, with WLS? Any other things that you want to just touch base on before we wrap it up?
I have a final thought.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm a little vocal today. I may not be that way next time, so I'm going to take advantage of it. I'm just being honest. So I held a VCI, love her dearly, and she's on top of everything. But there's one specific area that I want to see if anyone has like expertise on it other than what I think. Is with ESL. Most of her students are all high level or on level. and she has one or two who are way on the other extreme. Now, I have taught something similar demographics and dynamics in the classroom. But is there anything, like, do y'all automatically, like, have specifically, whether it's resources or anything simple, not overwhelming because you're a second year teacher, but anything that's, like, simple that you can think of that I could share with her so that I can get some other perspectives other than my own?
So what is she looking, what resource would be most useful?
It could be anything. She's honestly open.
What-
Second year
what's-
teacher,
what's-
third
what's-
grade.
What's the topic that they're working
Yeah.
on, or the?
So now, it is, she's playing around. So now they're in colonial unit, but that ends soon, like next week. And they will go slowly into westward expansion eventually. That's just social studies. Reading is pretty much whatever she wants. They don't really have like a set curriculum. It's in this particular school. So it's hard for me to say this is exactly what they're going to do. But
The one thing that comes to mind, and I don't know it super well, but there's a tool called News ELA that has articles, and you can change the Lexile level of whatever reading. So you could, and it's really cool. Like, but I don't know if it's just current events or if they have texts about other topics like historical things or other nonfiction. But it's so cool. Like, I've played around with it, and you can like just keep tweaking the text, and it can be like a super high Lexile level for great readers, and you can just kind of move this little scale, and it goes to like, it still has the same content and the same meaning, but it's just pared down for readers with less ability. So check it out.
News ELA.
News ELA. And it's in English and Spanish.
Yeah.
Perfect.
That's good. And I was thinking of PBS learning content, the learning media. So if I can send you the link, but they have different learning modules with what do you call it? Oh my God, I've lost the word. With a lesson plan.
Yeah.
Lesson plan. Thank you. I like that. Yeah. So they have lesson plans along with different subject areas, and they're really detailed lesson plans. So you can pull that and tweak it any way you want, but they have different modules that are connected to current events or history or art or whatever subject you put in whatever content you want to pull out of that. You could just type it in and it'll bring up the lesson plan for that subject area. It's really easy, and there's a lot of good stuff on there, and interactive stuff too that they could use as video stuff in the classroom too, because all readers don't learn the same and stuff. But
yeah, that's great.
And if you just want more like instructional strategies, my first place I usually send people to is Coloring Colorado. It's spelled like color IN and then Colorado, and it has a whole menu of different strategies for teaching English learners and some classroom videos of teachers doing those strategies that are well done. So that's my first place that I would share a brand new EL teacher.
Thank you all. Those are helpful. I'm going to look at them before I meet with her today. So thank y'all. And Alicia, can you send me that? Yes, please. Thank you. I'm done.
Awesome. Great. Anybody else have any struggles or anything you're looking for? Okay. All right, friends. 1 minute early. That's how we do. Thank you so much. So great to be with you all. I will send out for the second semester meeting frequency. I'll send out the doodle poll for that so we can go ahead and get those on the books well in advance for you. Remember to share your VCIs on the VCI calendar so I can pop on this semester. And that's it. Thank you.
All right.
Have a good one.
Great. Good seeing everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.